Or they rent the trucks.
Yeah. All right. I would like to call our Board of Adjustment meeting to order. We all have an agenda in front of us. So I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We have minutes of our last meeting of April 12th, 2022. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Approved, thank you. Public comment, anybody signed up for public comment? Thank you.
No, but if you don't mind, let me interrupt and explain why there's that statement on your agenda now under public comments. The notice requirements for remote meetings is different than regular meetings. And we rarely know for sure whether somebody's going to be able to be here or attend by Zoom until the day of the meeting. So we're meeting the requirement by putting it on the agenda. And then when it's posted on our website several days before the meeting, anybody who goes for our agenda sees, this is how to attend remotely, and that somebody may be attending remote.
Thank you for that explanation. And do we have anybody that joined us remotely that would like to give public comment?
No one on Zoom, but I have another staff public comment.
Oh,
This is just in regards to the training we went through at the last meeting. So there was one question that came up. Do you have to have standing in an evidentiary hearing to present evidence? And I think I gave incorrect information. Anyone can present evidence as long as the board allows it. You only have to have standing and go through those other special procedures to achieve standing in order to cross-examine, rebut evidence, appeal the board's decision, etc. So I just wanted to clarify that before we get into a case. You don't have to have standing to present evidence to this board.
in other words, we can't cut somebody off when they don't.
No, it's up to it's the board's discretion whether you'll allow it and whether you consider it competent material, expert testimony, all that stuff. But you only need standing in order to cross-examine, in order to present your own case, present witnesses, cross-examine witnesses, etc.
You'll probably have to remind us of that specific situation when that occurs.
I will. Just wanted to give you a heads up.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, next on the agenda is new business, and I would like to entertain a motion to open our evidentiary hearing.
I move we open the evidentiary hearing for variance 22-03.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I have to make an announcement now. And that's a long one, and I will have to read it. This is a quasi judicial evidentiary hearing. That means it is like a court hearing. North Carolina state law sets specific procedures and rules concerning how this board must make its decision. These rules are different from other types of land use decisions like rezoning cases. The board's discretion is limited. The board must base its decision only upon competent, material, relevant, substantial evidence in the record. A quasi-judicial decision is not a popularity contest where opinions are considered. It is a decision constrained by the standards in the Mills River Code of Ordinances and based on the facts presented. If you will be speaking, please focus on the facts and ordinance standards, not personal preference or opinion. Participation in this hearing is limited. This meeting is open to the public and everyone is welcome to watch. Parties with standing have rights to participate fully in the hearing. Parties may present evidence, call witnesses, and make legal arguments. Parties are limited to the applicant, the town of Mills River, and individuals. who can prove they will suffer special damages as a result of this decision. Other individuals may serve as witnesses when called on by the board. Witness testimony should be limited to facts and not opinions. General public comment is not permitted during the hearing. All witnesses must swear or affirm their testimony. In one moment, the clerk will administer oaths for all individuals who intend to act as a witness or to provide testimony.
It's a long statement and I know it's neutered, but we're moving closer and closer to what the new statutes require.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. The announcement of the variance case was made in the motion. I would like to notice to all the board members that they should let us know if they have any personal knowledge upon which they may rely that is not in the record, like site visits, internet research before the hearing, talking to applicants or neighbors, etc. Anybody? No, I do not. Thank you. Recognition of any person wishing to petition the board to act as a party with standing. This is all a little different, but we have the applicant and the zoning administrator.
And we would fall within the normal category. So there's no one here that's going to petition for standing tonight.
Perfect. So then next we are going to swear in those here to present evidence, and that is done by our town clerk.
And this is for this particular variance. Anyone I'm assuming each one of you is an applicant? Okay. So this variance is 2203. Mr. Famiano. I'm Italian myself and I tend to leave vowels out.
It's Famiano.
Famiano. Well, I was going there. Okay. All right. Anyway, so that is your name. You're Anthony Famiano. All right. If you would stand, and I'm just going to, because of COVID concerns, I'm going to hold the Bible, and if you'd raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
All right, next we would like to recognize our zoning administrator to present the case and enter preliminary materials into the record.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. So again, just summarizing, we're hearing a request tonight for a 10-foot variance from the town's 30-foot side yard setback requirement for the MR 30 zoning district from Anthony and Joanne Famiano. They're the owners of lot 33 of the farm at Mills River subdivision. So if granted, the 10-foot variance request would change their side yard setbacks on each side of the lot to 20 feet instead of the normal 30-foot side yard setback. Just a little background, Brian Goulden, attorney, acted as an agent for the property owner and submitted the application on March 29th. The property owner lives out of town. So Mr. Goulden acted as an agent and submitted that. And then the property owner submitted additional materials via email on May 4th, which are all included as attachments. Again, to summarize the hardship statements, the applicant claims unnecessary hardship due to the steep slope at the rear of lot 33, which prohibits the home from being built as a single level ranch home the property owner can age into. The applicant claims that if the single level home floor plans are modified to adhere to our 30-foot side yard setback requirements, it pushes the home further onto the rear of the property that contains the steep slopes, which will necessitate expensive grading and foundation work. That's the summary of the case. This evidentiary hearing was properly noticed. Public notice letters were mailed to all adjacent property owners on April 22nd, and a public notice sign was posted on the property the same day. And we had legal advertisements in the Hendersonville Lightning on April 27th and May 4th. I know everyone has a copy of this, but I'm just going to run through the attachments so I can formally submit them into the record. We have the variance application VAR 2203 as attachment A, a contractor's letter concerning the case and increased costs from Towery Builders as attachment B, a grading estimate from Lauder Grading as attachment C, the proposed single level house plan as attachment D, the modified house building area that meets our side yard setbacks as attachment E, the proposed house building area that encroaches into the side yard setbacks that necessitates the variance as attachment F. We have a boundary topographic and tree survey for lot 33 as attachment G, a GIS satellite view of lot 33 with the parcel highlighted as attachment H, the farm at Mills River Phase 2 final subdivision plat, again with lot 33 highlighted as attachment I. We have a GIS slope report with the lot highlighted as attachment J, the MR30 zoning ordinance excerpt as attachment K, specifically highlighting the setbacks, and then the certificate of public notice letters as attachment L. And so I submit those into the record.
Thank you. Okay, we've acknowledged that the public hearing was noticed properly. So next we would like to recognize the applicant to agree or object to planning and zoning staff exhibits. To agree or object to planning and zoning staff exhibits. Thank you. Next, we can address questions to our zoning administrator as board members.
Well, I'll start with the simple, obvious one. Were there any replies either for or against from the mailings that you sent out?
There was no inquiry of any time, any
Okay.
type for the public in response to public notices.
Thank you.
Yep.
In the past, and this is a pretty common feature that we have to deal with in this neighborhood fairly often, isn't it? Variances, this kind.
We've seen quite a few come through. The whole subdivision doesn't experience these steep slopes. It's particular lots, especially these ones on, is it Pisgah Ridge Trail? Yeah. Pisgah Ridge Trail, again, that goes slope down towards Jeffress Road. But a lot of the other lots in the subdivision that haven't been developed yet, further in towards the farm property, do not contain those steep slopes. But you're correct, there's been a number of these before the board recently.
So do we, I'm just thinking, do we have to consider each one individually? Or can we change and do something for the homes that are on that slope that's going to come back as they build that part of it? And just,
So
not making any
every,
sense, but
every variance case that comes before the board should be decided based on the evidence and its own merits. I think I've mentioned previously that in an ideal world, the subdivision developer would have sought a subdivision setback variance for these lots ahead of time, ahead of development. But that's not occurred.
okay,
So they're doing them on a one-off basis as they're sold.
understand.
Any other questions for our zoning administrator? Nope. All right, then we would like to recognize the applicant to present evidence and testimony. If you can come up to the microphone.
So again, Anthony Famiano, my wife Joanne Famiano cannot be with us. We're from Chicago. We spent about 5 years looking for land in this particular area. A whole host of reasons. I don't probably need to tell you what those are. It's a beautiful place to be. but a lot of it was climate conducive. A lot of it was about our future retirement coming up. And a lot of it was my wife's disability. So weather, temperament, extreme heat, extreme cold, all those variables came into play. The bigger challenge that we had, frankly, was finding something that was buildable in Asheville. Came to find out pretty quickly, there's a lot of houses that are built on literally mountainsides. That didn't work to our personal needs for a variety of the reasons I already stated, but also in seeking out level land became cost prohibitive. The lots that we did find in other areas, albeit beautiful, just were outside of our price range. So when the farm was established, I think it was in late 2019, we actually saw it on the way out of town, coming 2-3 times a year to visit, bring our daughters into town, vacation, so to speak, and look for a place to build. We looked at the farm and the farm made sense at that point in time. So we went ahead last year, June of 2021, and purchased a lot. We purchased a lot because the other parts of the development, this is considered phase one, the other parts were not open at the time. So we purchased this lot at the time, and it had the obvious slope that was already mentioned by Mr. Malachek. In doing so, you know, the restrictions we have personally are stairs and second floors. We sold our home in Chicago last year for that reason. We're living in an apartment. We're both working individuals. We're still finishing out our careers, but the home didn't become conducive to my wife's continuing progression in her matter. So we're in a 2-bedroom first floor apartment, and we might ultimately end up in a year or so here if costs continue the way they are. We're not sure how long the timing is going to be that we're going to build. We're going to build something on that lot, hopefully. So that brings us to present day. We saw a variance application. Believe it or not, it actually came from the developer who said you might want to seek a variance. And ironic to what Mr. Malachek just said, and not knowing anything about it in terms of variance and getting all the T's crossed, I's dotted, I sought local counsel at Van Winkle Law to help me do the application instead of me doing it and running any risk of just not filling it out properly and being out of town. So here I am in person instead of with Van Winkle Law representing me, because I felt it was important at this point in time because it's a decision-making process. So the evidence is there in front of you. I think if you flip to exhibit without reading through the actual application, my assumption, Michael, is everybody saw this beforehand?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I don't want to presume. If you go to exhibit A, which is the letter from Towery Builders, we have selected Towery Builders for a variety of reasons.
Attachment B.
I'm sorry,
Oh, B.
B. Towery Builders, we asked him to prepare a document to get more professional engineering and detailed information into the actual grade of the property, what it takes to build in this particular market, and all of the things associated to foundation work. So this letter basically calls out the side yard variances, the offsets, and the degree of slope. This letter also points out some of the approximation costs that he feels are going to be necessary if we do not get the variance and we end up building a house that is deeper to meet the 2,800 square foot ranch style home that we've submitted in the drawing. He's got cost in there approaching $70,000+ to build up for not only the footings, not only the cement work, but also all the vertical and horizontal steel work that will be relevant to building up that back wall as it approaches that significant grade. In addition to that, that's also going to raise the elevation by 10 feet on the foundation, and that's going to require stairs going out of the back of the house. Now, I say that knowing that if that is the case and we don't get the variance, the stairs going out of the back of the house may never be used because they're going to be going down a cliff. So the other option was to get a quote from a local grader and retaining wall contractor. So I have that in here as exhibit.
Attachment C.
Is it C? Yep. And that's from Louder Grading. And he has the price of roughly $105,000 to build that up, where it would go back approximately 20 feet beyond the back of the house if variance is not permitted. And therefore the backfill and all the associated engineering and drainage work would then bring the back of the house approximately 20 feet from the setback of the house up to the grade of roughly the front of the house. Therefore, a staircase would still be there, but it would be a manageable back step if you were to go off the staircase. I did ask multiple people for estimates, and I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that the builders are pretty tied up around here, so I did not have any luck. I do have some that are quote unquote coming to me. I'd be happy to submit them at a later date. But I don't have estimates. The drawing of the house, the exhibit of this is pretty straightforward. In my opinion, it's a ranch style home. It's 2,800 square feet. This drawing shows a 3-car garage. We've already removed that 3-car garage in order to fit inside of the variance request in the 95 feet that would be needed to build this house. It's also probably has some extra exterior porch work on here that we would eliminate just to mitigate cost. Exhibit B is the grade drawing where it shows the existing setbacks, of which is 80 feet wide by 90 feet deep. And you can see how this steps up to the slope. And it basically puts the back of the house at a pretty steep grade, where to my aforementioned comments related to the staircase and the need for a retaining wall. And then Exhibit C is what would be part of the variance if it's granted, and it shows the opposite, where it shows it 95 feet wide and only 60 feet deep, in the difference to the grade going off the slope off the back of the proposed house positioning. So needless to say, that would open up a lot of flexibility, not only for both of us, but for some sort of a back lawn without having to make significant investments north of $100,000 for retaining wall, any other backfilling, and associated engineering work with the house. I'll pause there because I know it's a lot of material, and I don't know if you typically ask questions during the zoning board now, or if you want to wait to the end.
Just keep going.
Keep going. The topographical maps are self-explanatory. They show the existing lot. I'm trying to figure out which exhibit was the one where it shows the actual cul-de-sac. I'm sorry. The GIS satellite view, which I believe is H. That would be this one with the home in the cul-de-sac. That's accurate.
That's
E.
H
Attachment H.
for us.
So this particular homeowner there's a lot on the corner between our lot and their lot. On the opposite side of our lot 33 is another piece of property along Pisgah Ridge Trail. My lot, I say our lot, and our neighboring lot to the east have significant grade deviation from the top half of the lots. My neighbor has a dramatically more severe drop in his grade. It literally comes from the road and goes straight down. We actually looked at buying that lot in conjunction with our lot 33. So it happens to be lot 34 next to ours and 33. At the time, the developer wanted $170,000 for it. And again, it didn't become economically conducive with what we're trying to do to downsize our homes and get to a ranch level house. But that would have allowed us to then come to the board to merge the lots and then have the side yard setback variance be null and void, because we would span between the two lots. There's not that much there in that slope, but there was enough that I would have avoided the setback variance request. And then the view of I think this is the GIS slope. The GIS slope was pretty telling. I had not seen this before, so thank you for sending this. It speaks to the variations in the grade, and you can see the highlighted lot 33, which is ours. You can see the neighbor to the east of that, where it goes right up to the roadside. And then you can, in the lot next to that, which is also sold. And these seem to be the three more extreme lots on Pisgah Ridge Trail. There is only one lot to the west of me towards the cul-de-sac, and one lot at the far end of Pisgah Ridge Trail towards Nesbitt Lane that are currently for sale. One of those, the one next to me, would also have a very severe grade. It backs right along parallel to mine, parallel Jeffers Road. And the one on the other land is more normalized, like the other houses that have already built along Pisgah Ridge Trail. So our request is such, we're trying to, as our builder pointed out, we're trying to get a tolerance of 1,120 square feet of the buildable space, which is 2% request over what is currently inside of the variance. And again, we're not trying to deviate from the side yard setbacks along the whole property. We're only trying to do it inside of that 60-foot deep, 80-foot block of buildable space, because it basically allows us to stay forward towards Pisgah Ridge Trail and not have to put all the exorbitant costs into the foundation work in the grid.
Do we have any other person wishing to present expert testimony or competent material and substantial evidence here? In this case, I don't think so. Preliminary discussion with input from any party or witness that the chair recognizes. If you don't mind just staying there so that we can easily ask you questions as we make them up with something. You can. It's a preliminary discussion. I don't see anywhere that we can.
Are you asking me if you can ask what?
No.
Sorry.
So
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I think you may have passed over item 12, and I know this is new, so sorry you're not going, questions addressed to the applicant.
Okay, sorry. Yep, I jumped. We can ask questions to the applicant right now. Go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you for the evidence you presented. The question I have is first of all, you have to be able to show us that the conditions are not common to the neighborhood for the variance to be granted. Why is your situation, if you could recap specifically, why is your situation special from the rest of the neighborhood?
Well, from our vantage point, it's more about the condition of the property as we bought it. So the property slopes in a manner that it does, that I don't know that it's special to the entire neighborhood, but there are a variety of other lots that were in phase 2 and phase 3 and yet to be 4 that don't have the drop off. So I didn't take the liberty or have the liberty to entertain buying them, but I did not want to lose the opportunity to get into the farm after a 4+ year search of getting into the farm. So from an evidence standpoint, I can only speak to the facts of what our property is. That's the best I can offer.
Follow up. So I guess my question is, you're talking about there's your lot and another lot. Are they the steepest lots in that area? I mean, is everyone that steep is going to have, is it common to everyone, the situation you're facing? Or are you facing a special situation where your lot is steeper than everyone else in there? It's going to require.
It's not steeper than everyone else in there. That would be misleading. The lot to the lot 34 is extremely, it's basically a bowl.
Yeah.
Lot 35 is basically a bowl.
Okay.
Lot 36, where there's, I think was the first house in the farm, and my lot 33 sit on the top edges of that bowl, but the back property line on lot 36 and lot 35 is more tapered. It starts very high on Pisgah Ridge Trail and it tapers on the back end. In my case, on the top end of the bowl on the right side, on the west side, it's flat on the top on Pisgah Ridge Trail for the first 75 to 80 feet, which 60 feet is front yard setback, but then it goes like this, it doesn't taper. So the back edge, the western edge of Pisgah Ridge Trail for the cul-de-sac has a very steep drop off, but the gentleman in the cul-de-sac bought the lots behind him. There are 4, if I'm not mistaken. There's a full plat in here of he bought all 4 of those. So he did not ask for, I don't believe he applied for a variance from my conversations with the developer and him. However, he didn't need to get a variance because all the back lots in this corner, he consumed all of them and purchased them. he cut a deal with a developer.
But overall, the majority of the neighborhood of the farm is fairly flat lot.
Fairly flat. Or I should say, at a minimum, gentle roll. From Pisgah Ridge Trail, very flat. And as they go back towards the dairy farm, or as they go east towards the front of the farm, they're very, very gentle at best.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir. One question. And y'all looked at the possibility of asking for a front yard variance instead of the side, right? And that just won't work here.
So we talked about that. And by looking at it, if we ask for a 20-foot front yard revision, 20-foot, we were going to put our house, it was going to be very distinguished forward compared to the other existing houses and the variance that got granted in lot 34. So we didn't want to, for curb appeal and aesthetics of the farm, we didn't want to create an environment where you came down Pisgah Ridge Trail, which is virtually straight, and you saw the front end of this house with a short front lawn and a short driveway.
Yes.
Part one. Part two, to asking for this, for the side yard setbacks, is that, you know, the natural aesthetic beauty of the farm is the trees. And if we go past the point of what is proposed and we have to put a retaining wall in, we start cutting into that. We got to take out some of the canopy. And, you know, the natural ecosystem just doesn't make sense for us for what we like. So we chose to go with the side yard.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
I have one question on the application. I'm a little confused. Attachment A. Item number 2 on the second page. You state there that the lot is adjacent to both Pisgah Ridge Trail and Jeffers Road, and thus has 2 front yard setbacks of 60 feet. That doesn't make sense to me.
So it's a 1 acre lot that is between the two parallel roads. And as Van Winkle presented this, their findings were that we had an option to build in from Jeffers if we wanted a driveway to come off of Jeffers. I don't know who would do that if the farm was on top and Pisgah Ridge Trail was the main entry point. We didn't even consider that, so I'm not proposing that that was even an idea, because that would have defeated the whole purpose of flat land, because it's literally like this. So I think that's the reference point to the second 60-yard front yard setback, if that were considered for a building option.
So there would be an option for a front yard in the back or a front yard
Theoretically,
in the front.
but if you looked at the farm, you may have, you would just wouldn't do that. That's like the entrance to the farm does that off Jeffers, and no other entry point to the farm and no other exit off the farm.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes. Yep.
Just so I'm clear, looking at I definitely see the 60% or greater grade on the back of the property face or on Jeffries Road.
Mhm.
And you're asking for side setbacks,
Side yard.
side yard. How does that get you off that 60-degree or that super steep slope?
So if you,
Bring it in on the sides. So,
well, you don't bring it inside, you go out on the sides. So if we
yes,
did,
making it bigger.
if we didn't get the variance, the sides would be inside of an 80-foot building envelope, which pushes 2,800 square feet, 90 feet deep, puts us in the grade.
Okay.
The opposite, and that's what the drawing, they're very good drawings of the topo where it shows the red square highlighting and you can see the 2% variance left and right of the side yards.
Thank you. That made it clear for me. Thank you.
Thanks. So again, it comes down to like 1,100 square feet of buildable space that we're looking for. And when you look at the total footprint and total square footage of an acre lot, in lieu of setbacks, taking setbacks out, there's only 5,500 square feet to build, but half of it is inside of the slope. It's truly a beautiful development. And there's a lot to be said for it. It's just got a few challenges on a few of the lots.
Yep. Any other questions? No? Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate your time.
Okay, now. There's nobody else that wants to present evidence, so we can skip that. There's no other person wishing to present expert testimony or material substantial evidence. Then now we go to the preliminary discussion.
I'll start if I may, Mr. Chair. The only issue that I was having, and I passed that now, is I do believe that this grade on the back of the property is unique to those lots right there, not conducive to what the rest of the neighborhood has to experience. So I do believe this particular which was the issue I was having initially, but as far as the ordinance is concerned, I am there now as far as I think it is particular to that property. So I just want to make that statement.
I'm looking at you, just,
Just looking that way.
want to make sure.
They're used to me saying a lot.
And Mr. Chairman, my question's been answered. Just thinking about it, would it be less of an impact on the neighboring parcels with a front yard setback, but variance, but I understand that would cause the house to stand out along the line. So the 10 foot closer to the neighboring property seems to be less of an impact than having it closer to the road.
That's what I was thinking, because it's very disturbing sometimes to see a staggered front setback. And you've still got a 20-foot setback, which is a pretty generous setback in this day and time. Excuse me.
Mr. Chairman, I think he meets all the criteria. I don't have any issues.
And if there's no more discussion at this time, because now we can still get input from any party or witness that we want. If no more pending questions or doubts or whatever else, then I would like to entertain a motion to close the evidence portion of the hearing.
I move we close the evidence portion of the hearing.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And now we get to deliberation of the board, considering all the factors set out in the ordinance. And we have a copy highlighted of that part of the ordinance under attachment K. So now we have a new variance decision tool in front of us. Everybody, which lists the 4 standards. And I don't know what the recommended method is. Do we go through these one by one?
I will.
So yes, these are the 4 state mandated standards for granting a variance that we've, or the board has voted on at every previous meeting. This tool is just a tool for the board to use. So if someone's presenting and you want to take notes in specific categories, it allows you to. But again, these are the 4 hardship standards that would need to be voted on.
And would
Yes,
that be-
individually. Individually, and then you would vote on the variance separately.
In the end. Go ahead. You, whatever you want to
Is
do.
now, if Now's the time for a motion. Okay. I'd like to make a motion that standard 1 has been met, that unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the ordinance.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved that motion.
I move that hardship results from the conditions that are particular to this property, and not even the one next to it is the same hardship. And that the applicant is doing the best he can with a piece of property that does restrict building.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Again, unanimously approved.
Hey, we're going down one.
Yep. Next.
I make a motion that the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or any other property owner.
Second,
We got 3 seconds.
there you go.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That was the third one, 5 out of 5 votes.
Make a motion that the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, intent of the ordinance, such that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
5 out of 5. Then with all these 4 standards approved, I'd like to entertain a motion.
I move that we grant the variance request for variance 22-03.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved.
Welcome to Asheville.
I'd like to entertain a motion to close and adjourn this evidentiary hearing.
So move. Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Okay, next on our agenda is evidentiary hearing variance 22-04 H&E Homes for Nathan Grigg, variance request from 154-047 D6 front yard setback for lot 49, the farm at Mills River. I don't have to read that whole statement again, do I? Thank you. Any board members have any? Sorry. I need to, I need a motion to open evidentiary hearing.
I move we open the evidentiary hearing on variance request 22-04.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Notice of any of the board members of any personal knowledge upon which they may rely that is not in the record, site visit, internet research before the hearing, talking to the applicant or neighbors, etc. Anybody?
No.
Thank you. Recognition of any person wishing to petition the board to act as a party withstanding. Nope. Nobody. Swearing in of those here to present evidence by our clerk. So if you will just follow the directions.
Are you Mr. Youngblood?
I'm actually Nathan Grigg.
Nathan Grigg? Grigg. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. And next, we would like to recognize our zoning administrator to present the case and enter preliminary materials into the record.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening again. So again, just to summarize, we're hearing a request. This was submitted by Josh Youngblood of H&E Homes. I assume acting as the home builder contractor, acting as an agent for property owners Nathan and Alicia Grigg. The request is for a 15-foot variance from the town's 60-foot front yard setback requirement in the MR30 zoning district. If granted, the 15-foot variance would change the front yard setback for this property to 45 feet as measured from the front property line. Just a little background, again, to summarize for the record and those online. I had email conversations with Mr. Youngblood of H&E Homes regarding permitting a home on lot 49 in the farm at Mills River in January 2022. Mr. Youngblood then submitted a zoning permit application, which was approved because the home adhered to all of the town setback requirements. There was a minor encroachment of about 0.8 feet into the side yard setbacks, but the zoning administrators allowed to approve minor encroachments of 2 feet or less. So that was approved as part of that zoning permit. The zoning permit that was issued, it was Z2214. On March 18th, Mr. Youngblood emailed me again stating that his clients and the owners of the property wanted him to request a variance to reduce the front yard setback. He stated this was due to a Duke Energy power line easement at the rear of lot 49, which reduces the area his clients can use for a fenced in rear yard. Also stated there are other houses nearby that are built closer to the road. I responded stating since the zoning permit was already approved, he would have to submit an additional zoning permit with the new plans and submit for a variance request from the front yard setback. That variance application was submitted April 6th with supporting materials. To summarize the hardship statement, the applicant claims unnecessary hardship due to a 30-foot wide power line easement at the rear of the property. Again, limiting the amount of land the property owner can fence in. I didn't look up the energy easement deed, but again, typically fences are not allowed within utility easements. Typically, if the power company needs to come in and do any work, they're allowed within the easement to remove any structure that exists there. Again, the applicant claims other houses in the area are built closer to the road and also claims adhering to the 60-foot front yard setback would increase construction costs due to a longer driveway from the roadway. This evidentiary hearing was properly noticed. Public notice letters were mailed to adjacent owners on April 22nd, and a public notice sign was posted the same day. Legal advertisements ran in the Hendersonville Lightning on April 27th and May 4th. And again, just to summarize the evidence being presented into the record, we have attachment A, which is the variance application for VAR 2204 and the appointment of agent form appointing Josh Youngblood of H&E Homes to represent the homeowner in these matters. Attachment B is the proposed site plan and zoning permit application asking for the variance Z2255. That's the one that has not been approved, awaiting the variance. Attachment C was the approved site plan and zoning permit application that was originally approved after our conversation in January, Z2214. Attachment D is a GIS satellite view of the parcel with lot 49 highlighted. Attachment E is the farm at Mills River Phase 2 final plat with lot 49 highlighted. Excuse me, attachment F is the excerpt of our MR30 zoning ordinance with the front yard setback requirement. And attachment G is the certificate of mailing of public notice letters. So I submit these into the record.
Thank you. That right away acknowledged, and also that the public hearing was noticed properly. Yeah, that's the last part. Recognition of our applicant to agree or in any way object to the planning and zoning staff exhibits.
Agree. I do have some additional.
That will be next after we address our questions to the zoning administrator. Any questions for Mr. Malachek? Yep.
Would you agree with this? Have you been out to the property?
Yes, I posted it with the sign.
Would you agree that the other houses have less of a setback than what the statute requires?
I did not look at them or take a photo or look into how they were permitted, so I don't have an answer.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Mr. Malachek. When we're considering a variance, it's a case by case. We don't look at other variances in the subdivision, do we, or could we take that into account? Such as if there are other front yard setbacks in there that we know about that have had variances, would we take that into account, or is this a standalone?
Probably not the answer you want, but each case should be decided based on the evidence in the record for that case. Without looking at other cases and looking at the evidence presented for each one, there's no way to tell how they
Sure.
were granted or for what reason.
Sure, just wanted to ask the question. Thanks.
I have a question, and I think the map answers it, but the Duke Power easement, and I'm looking at the lot in question, and then the two, I don't know if it's east or west, going that way. They also have, those lots have an easement in the back of their yard,
What attachment to it?
huh?
Attachment E.
Yes, attachment E,
D,
E, like
E,
Edward,
E.
like
okay.
Eugene.
Okay, I got you.
So that would be lots
48 and
48
47.
and 47.
So lot 48 has not been platted yet, or I haven't signed off on it.
Right.
The developers started platting lots individually. So this is an example where they submitted 49 and 60 for me to sign off on. And again, because only those two lots were platted in this document, it's only 49 that shows the easement. So honestly, I can't tell you if the easement extends onto those other lots. Overhead electrical utilities do exist there. So again, this is an assumption that if there's no overhead utility, that's also the same Duke Energy power line. In theory, the easements should exist, but based on this, I couldn't tell you that.
Okay.
And these are overhead lines.
Yeah, from my understanding and just looking at this, there's the line that extends through is marked OU in very small letters, which just stands for overhead utility. And that extends, again, according to this survey and subdivision plat, through 47, 48, 49. And then actually
And then,
in the lot next door where it, if you see it goes diagonally down, in order to make that lot buildable, I don't know who paid for it, but the utilities were buried.
Right.
but they're not, pardon me, but it's not developer buried lines. It's what's being provided is overhead.
Yes,
And the
it
best you can tell, they run along those three lots.
correct. And I was just stating
Yeah.
on the left side of the highlighted lot where it goes diagonal,
Right,
those were buried. It's still a Duke Energy power line, but they were buried because again, nothing would have been built on that lot next door because the easement doesn't allow for permanent structures.
thank you.
But you can't build on a buried. power
Yeah, you
line.
can.
Yeah.
Why, high voltage?
Well, they may have been buried in a different location. I don't know.
So if Duke, did they replace your fence? Probably not. They got it. You got a fence and they got this up. They just tear it up.
I didn't pull up I did not look into the deed book and page number for this easement, but from my professional experience in other places I've worked, if you have a structure in an easement, it may be removed at any time with no liability to Duke Energy. So again, it's usually not in the property owner's interest to build in that area.
So in a nutshell, this just gets you further away from the power line.
Well, let's, if we have no more questions for our zoning administrator, I would like to recognize the applicant to present evidence and testimony. You can come up and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Nathan Grigg. Thank you very much for taking the time to hear this. I have some additional handouts for the board, if that's okay.
Sure.
Is the print bigger than this?
Yes. First off, I just wanted to provide some evidence regarding the power lines and the unique situation. I guess from lot 49 going east is really where the power lines, impact. So lot 49, 48, 47. So on that first page, and really if you flip to the second page, you can see the property or the power lines there at the back of the property. The second page is just, kind of an outline of some of the issues I'm, kind of addressing here, additional cost to the driveway. And I did take a measurement of on that side that where it has the power lines, the closest constructed house is 256 Majestic Ridge Road. And I did take a measurement of their front setback, and they're technically at a 35-foot setback from the property line or 50 feet from the road. And again, that's one of the houses that also, exhibits the power lines towards the back. And that's the closest constructed house to lot 49. I believe this is lot 46.
So it would be like going off the map, so to speak, that we're looking at. It would be going this way.
Yes, ma'am. It's, there's two lots and then it would be
And
lot
then-
46.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
right. Then I did put a tape to it, and so the measurement you're seeing right there with the 50 feet, that's from the road. And then again, if you would take the measurement from the actual property line, it's 35 feet.
I don't understand. What is this one showing? Evidence of 35.
So that one's showing that's 50 feet from the road.
Oh,
You mean
gotcha.
from where the road meets the beginning of the
Correct.
residential
Correct.
portion?
That's correct.
All right.
So there's really 15 feet from the
Right.
road to the start of the property line. And so, and you can kind of see that if you flip a couple pages, you can see the orange flag on this image here. So really, if you were to measure from this flag here, they're at 35 feet front setback. And again, I believe it's because they're dealing with the same issue with the power lines in the rear, just wanting to be further away. And then this image here is just showing you that house from the view of lot 49 as well.
Do you have an HOA?
We do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they are not taking a position on changing your front setback?
No, I talked to Billy. He's a developer. And he's willing to work with whoever on the front setbacks, but they're not taking the position to change them
Well,
on
that's
their
where I
own.
was wondering if the properties have been turned into the HOA yet, or if it's still the developer coordinating this stuff.
I think it's probably at this point been turned into the HOA.
Okay,
But, and to be quite honest, when we went under contract for the property, I was not aware of the 60 foot front setback until we were, under contract and due diligence had been paid. And so, there was a steep due diligence fee we had to put up, over $10,000 just on this lot. So I wasn't going to back out at that point. But, during that process, I did realize it was a, front 60-foot setback, which, from my opinion is different from the other houses, especially from the first two closest constructed houses to lot 49, because it looks like they're more of a 35-foot setback. And I don't know if it was a scenario where they measured from the center of road initially, and then the different stance was taken and they measured from the front of the property line. But I think, I'm just requesting that we kind of be held to the same setback as the other properties, just to get away from those power lines. I do have another example, 46 Pisgah Ridge Trail. It's that White House, same scenario. They're 50 foot from the road or 35 feet from the front of the property line. And this image is from lot 49, again, those two houses, I gave you an example, it's right here, and you can't see it off the picture, but those are the two closest constructed houses.
Any other evidence or testimony you want to present right now?
No, sir.
Questions for the applicant beside the ones we've asked already? Yep.
The power lines that are drawn on here and the ones that you have on your property, they're particular to those sets of property. It's not representative of the rest of the neighborhood, what they're facing, correct?
That's correct. I would say there's three that probably deal with that, with the property lines being right there at the rear.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Do.
Yeah, go ahead.
What approximately is the distance between the overhead property line and the back of your property line?
Ooh, that's tough. Yeah, it's not drawn to scale on there.
Huh?
So
Yeah, because this is basically your property lines. And this is showing an overhead property line. So is that 10 feet, 20 feet? What is this amount of land? What's the depth? Taking the biggest part, just saying this ran even. How many feet is that?
like from here to here.
No, from here to here. This is where the property line is.
Gotcha. I'd say that's roughly
Give or take. I mean, I'm not
15 feet, somewhere in there.
15 max,
Oh, yeah, no more than 15.
and 10 is more realistic. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Specifically, if we were to apply the statute or the ordinance as required, what hardship would you face specifically as a result of that application?
Specifically, I think loss of use of the backyard. My wife, she wants a garden back there, and then the kids also want a pool. So I mean, just not being able to use the space how we thought we were going to be able to use it at the time of purchasing the lot.
If you use that space, that will be right at the easement, right? That will be right.
Correct.
So the company has to come do maintenance or whatever.
Correct. And you can't build a fence back there. There's a good, in those pictures, it's not really drawn to scale, but like at the back of the home, it's about 85, 86 foot deep. There doesn't leave you a lot of room between that, and that easement, if you will, from the power lines. So there's not a whole lot of space to work with from that.
I have a follow-up, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
To your understanding, you do have to have a fence around the pool. Is that
Correct,
your understanding?
correct.
Thank you.
Question. Yeah,
Mr. Chair, I have a question. Sir, you mentioned the driveway expense and that I'm just curious about that. What part of the driveway expense would be a hardship compared to the other driveways where they do? And I see this house in this picture here, which you show, that's to me clearly, that house is closer to the road.
Mhm.
The house beyond that, next to it, it's really hard to tell because of angles and everything like that, but I'm just curious, is the driveway expense has been, I'm just curious what makes that a hardship? It's gonna be a bigger driveway.
Exactly, yeah, just the additional, I think that point was just the additional cost of the driveway when we initially, I was initially thinking of bringing it closer, planning on having it closer, so having, that much driveway with the 60-foot front back, 60-foot front setback.
Because you really just can't have a gravel driveway,
No, it has to be stamped, concrete, or pavers is what the developer is requiring.
not gravel.
Not
Okay.
gravel, yeah.
But when your initial building permit, I am. Aren't I? No. When the initial permit that was issued it was permitted for a 60-foot driveway.
Yes.
So you were aware of it. That's what you were going to be putting in at that point.
Yeah, and just being real honest, me and the builder kind of went back and forth. I told him initially on I wanted to request a variance. I think that kind of, he kind of forgot about that, and so he went through with the setback as is. Yes, I was aware of the setback when he put the building permit in,
Okay.
but ideally I was wanting to request a front variance.
Okay. Thank you.
any other questions for the applicant? Nope. Nope. Thank you, sir. Recognition of any person standing to present evidence. There's nobody here. Recognition of any other person wishing to present expert testimony or competent material and substantial evidence. There's nobody else here. Preliminary discussion by the board with input from any party or witness that the chair recognizes.
Looking at our sheet here, I would, as far as it being particular to this property and not a condition that everyone else in the property, everybody else in the neighborhood has to face. 2 or 3 properties, I don't think meets the element that it's the entire neighborhood that has to put up with this issue. I think it is particular to his property and the ones joining him on the left and right. And I do also feel that the strict application of the ordinance would cause him an undue hardship in the use of that property. I mean, he definitely has no control over where Duke Power puts its power lines in the easement.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I do agree,
Same
Mr. Chair, that the power lines do impact the use of that backyard.
Yes.
Without the power lines, you can have a fence, if I'm correct, right up to the property line, but you lose 30 feet. So that would cut down what you saw. I'm really not convinced about the driveway. I apologize, but I do understand there's an expense, but that's not the hardship that those power lines are causing. So I would agree that the standards met based on the power lines set without the driveway expense.
I would agree. I agree with that.
Question for your consideration. Does the fact that any of the other houses have looks like a lesser setback play a role in approving this variance? Well, yes, you can chime in, definitely.
It can be considered, but I'm going to restate the same thing I already said, which each case should stand on its own merits and evidence in the record. I'll elaborate a little bit. I think it may have been one of my first variances before this board, maybe in December. I can't remember the lot number, but where a house was going to be blocking views, and that applicant also claimed, I think it was in one of the photos, that one of the houses was built closer to the road. And upon my investigation, I found that the old town planner had given the developer incorrect information about the setback requirements. And so it's possible that these houses, and again, without pulling the permits, which if you want to take a 5-minute recess, I'm happy to do and look into, it's possible those were improperly permitted. Now they're completely legal and valid, because once the town issues a permit, the property owner has rights to rely on that permit. But again, if those were issued in the same circumstances, the other one referenced in an earlier variance, it is possible that the setbacks were measured from the center line of the road, as the applicant stated, because that was what was at contention was, before I came along, the town planner told people to measure setbacks from the center line of the road, when if you look at the subdivision plat and everything else, it says from the property line.
And sir, if I could ask, the right of way is not owned by the property owner, it's owned by the subdivision. It's deeded land that surrounds that roadway. It's a fee simple right of way versus a right of way easement.
Correct.
So the property line goes to that right of way line.
That's correct. It's a 45 or 50 foot wide right of way. And again, the property lines start at the edge of the right of way. There's no overlap between the right of way of the road, usually the ditch area and the property line.
Okay.
And I would say, not that I would, please don't feel like I'm doubting your measurements. To me, they look fine. I'm not sure that we could really consider the measurements as expert testimony, because we really don't have a way of verifying them. However, I feel like 30 feet of the property has been taken by Duke Power. We're giving 15 back. So, I'm in favor of what I've seen. I believe the standards have been met. I would just caution us using the measurements, the pictures to make our decision. I mean, I think they're fine. I think if we went out there and pulled the tape, or if an engineering firm were to pull the tape and seal a set of plans saying it's 35 feet back, I think the measurement would be the same, but I'm not sure that, I can use that.
They call this illustrative evidence.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty clear, but, to give an exact number to how far back that other house is definitely appears closer from the picture, but anyway.
Okay. Is this something whereby, I'm just wondering about the process here. There are certain arguments that are entered in the application, specifically the evidence presented with pictures of other houses and the additional cost of 15 foot of driveway. Personally, I don't think that both of these are evidence that should play a role in our decision. But that's my opinion.
So,
Both the fact that we got different measurements of other houses from the property line, or the fact that when you keep the 60 feet setback, you have to put 15 feet more driveway in, is not an argument for, I don't know if the word argument is right, but I don't see that as evidence, justification for this variance.
I would agree with you, but I think I'm not considering that personally. Right.
Okay, well, if we agree that we don't consider that, then basically we put that aside.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
And that's just part of the discussion. It doesn't have to go into
the
a
driveway
motion.
doesn't come into this.
I agree. Okay. Any other preliminary discussion where we can still fire off questions to both the zoning administrator and the applicant?
This power line doesn't go all, this power line just affects these 3 or 4 lots. It doesn't go all the way through the neighborhood.
It's lots on this side of the subdivision. I was gonna pull this up. So the lot in question is right here. Let me make sure I've got the right one. Yep. And I'll zoom in closer. You can see where they go diagonal down the next lot. So this is the
Right.
lot in question here. So it goes through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, kind of at a diagonal, and now they're on the property line. So over here, if you look at the survey really closely, it basically shows the easement 15 feet from each side of the line itself. So this lot would probably have, a 15 to 17 foot encroachment of an easement versus the subject property over here actually has more. And then one other thing I was gonna pull up was the main subdivision plat, which if you'll bear with me for 30 seconds. That may also reflect the extent of the power line.
That's impressive. You can plant stuff in there.
I'm
Oops.
impressed.
Would we be able to look at Google,
It's not up to date.
Google map? Okay, so the latest overhead's not up to date. Okay.
So this is the subdivision plat for phase 1 of the farm at Mills River. And the overhead utilities are marked. So again, like I was saying, this side of the subdivision, and again, it only affects lots that are adjacent to this edge of the subdivision. It's on the property line. And then coming over here, it actually dips down a bit. And then again, the lot in question is about right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Okay,
Which that makes more sense discussing than the driveway.
Right.
Yeah,
All right. Any other preliminary discussion with questions? None? Then I would like to entertain a motion to close the evidence portion of the hearing.
Close the evidence portion.
second,
All in favor, say.
Aye.
Deliberation of the board, consideration of all factors set out in the ordinance, and we have the ordinance. And then continue deliberation after review of the proposed findings of facts. And we have our cheat sheet now. Well, I think the only thing that is the factors set out in the ordinance is the setback from the front property line. So if you want to start making motions, go right ahead.
I have a motion that an unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the ordinance.
A second.
Any discussion? Do we have to put
Don't we have to put reasons?
reasons
It-
in there?
It's helpful when I write the order, either granting or denying, so I can reflect the board's thought.
We didn't do it in the last one. That's the reason I did this.
Right.
I'm fine with that. Mr. Chair, I'd like to remake my motion, please.
Yes, sir.
I make a motion that unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the ordinance in that it would restrict the use of the rear yard at no fault of the property owner due to the overhead power lines.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Approved.
I'd like to make a motion that the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as location, size, topography. This is one of 3 or 4 lots. It doesn't affect the whole community, and it will have a particular hardship to this particular property.
And I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved unanimously.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the hardship did not result from the actions taken by the applicant or the property owner, that the hardship results from the power line easement through the property.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved unanimously.
I move that the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the regulation, such that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved in allowing him to use buildable parts of the lot with safety.
And I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
Unanimously approved. I'd like to entertain a motion. Next.
I move that variance request number 22-04 be approved.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Next, we need a motion to close and adjourn our evidentiary hearing.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And anything else from behind the table on the right-hand side?
Your next meeting is June 14th. Right at this moment, we don't have anything, but keep that open. In case something comes forward, we'll let you know.
What day is that?
Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah, right.
14th.
You always meet on the second Tuesday unless we tell you that it's special.
Unless you tell me that I'm special.
We are
Yes.
all-
No,
And you are.
that We always do. Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Brandon? did you-
I didn't know. I was telling him. He was saying, I was thinking. I'll say.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
So kind of alter it. I love the